Hi Internet, welcome to this online seminar and discussion about the ANZSOG Executive Masters Program. My name's Darren Whitelaw. I'm from the Department of Premier and Cabinet here in Victoria, but most importantly I'm actually a graduate of the Executive Masters Program back in 2009. What I'd like to do is start off by introducing the other speakers we've got today here. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Professor Gary Banks, who's the Dean and CEO of ANZSOG. And he's going to be providing an overview about ANZSOG and what it can offer. Next to me here we've got Professor Michael Mintram, and he's the Academic Director of the Executive Masters Program. And he's going to be talking in detail about the program, what it offers, the course structure, the design of that as well. And we're also really fortunate enough to have with us Sally Fensling, who is also one of our most recent graduates who began in the 2011 program. So Sally will be providing some really recent first-hand experience of the Executive Masters Program. So just before we start, a couple of housekeeping issues. If you have any technical problems, you'll see on the screen the number for Redback Conferencing. Just give them a call and they should be able to troubleshoot any technical issues you've got. You'll also notice in the bottom right hand corner of the screen that there's a Ask a Question button. And please feel free to ask questions at any time during this webinar. What we'll be doing is we'll be saving them up, and I'll allow some time at the end where we'll get to have our panel of experts be able to talk through and answer your questions. When you do ask a question, can I ask that you put your name and organisation in the question as well? That allows us to help understand the context, as well as if we don't happen to get to your question, we'll have one of the staff follow up and respond to you personally. So with that ready to go, I'd like to start off with you, Gary. Can you talk to everyone about the benefit to both the organisation who will be sponsoring the individual, as well as the benefit to the individual as well who's considering studying the Executive Masters Program?
Yeah, well, thanks, Darren. I'll be happy to do that. And should I begin by thanking you and Sally for participating in this? And I think it reflects one of the real strengths of ANZSOG, that we have a strong alumni program and we have people who keep coming back. And you know, that really is a great asset, I think. I always held ANZSOG in high esteem, and I probably wouldn't have come here if that wasn't the case, but that was partly because I saw the effect it had on my staff. And there was always something special about a member of staff who'd studied at ANZSOG, something that they didn't seem to get from other courses. You know, they seemed to have a strategic view, they seemed to see the big picture, they were very good with their teams, and quite at ease in confronting situations. You know, you could see that they were turning from likely to be good managers to likely to be good leaders. And I think that's the key that ANZSOG can provide. It's turning promising public servants in mid-career and later career into top leaders. Now I'm in the job as Dean of ANZSOG. I can understand why it was doing such good things for my staff and for my organisation. It has the ability to bring the best of academic rigour together with practical applied experience, things that are very relevant to all of the member governments and member departments. And it can do that, I think, because of the unique structure that it's got as a partnership between 18 universities and 10 member governments in Australia and New Zealand. Bringing all that together creates incredible synergies and dynamism and the ability to provide a networked course. And you can see that being reflected in the enhanced ability and capacity of the students. So the quality of the teaching is very high, and then the focus is on public value. It's on being a good strategic person, on being adaptable and resilient, and these are all qualities I can now see that with that kind of instruction it is turning people into leaders and top level managers from their staff, but also for their organisations. They appreciate that even in difficult times it remains really important to invest in their people, because the challenges, as we're all aware and you're all aware out there, the challenges confronting the public sector are just getting tougher and tougher. So capability is critical, and ANZSOG plays a really important part in enhancing that.
ANZSOG is seen as a world-class educational facility. I've also done some study at the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard, which is what ANZSOG has been modelled on, and I guess I have got the opportunity to compare both, and I've got to say that ANZSOG certainly is up there, and the fact that the ANZSOG, the EMPA attracts some of those Harvard lecturers out here, and I think that. What's been your experience of that exposure, not just to domestic and cross-Tasman relationships, but the international perspectives as well?
Look, I think that strategic relationship between ANZSOG and Harvard has been very important. We also have a good relationship with the London School of Economics and so on. What that tells people is that we're reaching out to the best internationally, and I think some of the great teaching that I've observed here in Australia has rubbed off from the Harvard professors like Mark Moore and Dutch Leonard, who are world-renowned teachers as well as researchers, and they've brought that into Australia. So sometimes I describe ANZSOG a little bit like Harvard in Harvard Plus, you know, because it has the value that Harvard can bring through top people like that, but also the context and relevance that you get when you're studying in Australia.
Okay. Why should people consider doing this Executive Masters program?
Okay, well, first of all, maybe I'll just start with the intentions of the program, and that was to assist future leaders to become really good at management and also build up their policy skills so that they can do very well on multiple fronts within the public service. We're not only thinking about the public service of today, but the public service of the future. In terms of the nuts and bolts of the degree, you do the degree with us, but it's actually the degree is conferred by one of our university partners. So it's a 2-year part-time postgraduate master's degree, fully accredited by our university partners, and the degree is set up to combine intensive residential blocks with further core and elective courses that you take at your home institution.
Okay, so talking about those core subjects, can you just talk us through, I guess, the 2-year program and the kind of core subjects that students can expect?
Yeah, okay. Well, what I'll do is start by talking about the first course that people have when they come into the degree is called Delivering Public Value, and the title of the subject itself kind of captures what we're wanting to convey there, and that is that we want people to be strategic thinkers who develop good ideas for improving public value, who negotiate with politicians and with senior people in their organisations about the parameters of the particular programs that they think should be developed or reformed in that way. And they're also thinking a great deal about the capacity that they have or capabilities that they have in the organisation to deliver that public value, and thinking about if they pursue that goal, what would be some other things they'd give up, what would be some other synergies that could happen, that kind of thing. So right from the get-go, we're teaching people about to think hard about public value. What is it that they on a day-to-day basis are adding to their organisations and to the public sector as a whole? I've
got to say that's it's a fantastic start off to the course. We used to refer to it as a boot camp for bureaucrats. 1 week intensive study where people are getting to know each other, relationships are being formed, and it's really giving a fantastic foundation of those core critical understandings, getting into your DNA. What is public value? Why are we here? What are we here to do? And I think that was a fantastic way to kick off that 2 years of study. Yeah. So okay, students finish that delivering public value, then on to what are some of the other core subjects?
Well, let me talk more about in general what we're doing with the other subjects is introducing a range of concepts and tools and techniques that are going to help people to deliver value on a day-to-day basis back at the workforce, but also help them to think hard about their future career trajectory and the ways that they can add value throughout their careers. And one other thing that I'll just mention now is the work-based projects capstone course that we have in the 2nd year of the degree. And what's unique about that from a sort of a pedagogical perspective is that the groups in them are made up of people from multiple jurisdictions. They're given a real live problem that's been given to ANZSOG by some of our member government partners. So they come to us with a problem that they would like a group of people to think about and give them some suggested recommendations for improving the situation. And then the team goes out, interviews stakeholders, looks at best practice elsewhere, and kind of comes to a view on what would be a good way to go forward here. So it's very much real world stuff, and again the idea is that the learning that they've taken from the classroom is purely and effectively integrated into their learning back at base and the way that they think about how to structure projects in the future.
Yep, and it's certainly that year-long project working with students or colleagues across other jurisdictions, in a consulting-based model. You've got a real-life program, real-life wicked public policy challenges that need to be solved, research-based, and it really does cap off those 2 years of learning, because basically you're putting in place all of those theoretical and practical tools that have been provided throughout the course. What was your work-based project, and what did you get out of that, Sally?
My work-based project was for the Department of Justice here in Victoria. It was around developing an evaluation framework for liquor licensing, which had proven a very wicked problem for the department itself to develop. I'm pleased to say that we were able to come up with a framework that they have taken as a baseline for them to work with. Obviously, even in the space of a year, we weren't able to come up with, the answer for them, ready for them to implement. But they were really pleased with the framework that we were able to develop. They've then set about changing their data sets to better meet the needs of that evaluation framework. So moving forward, they can actually evaluate the impact of particularly the liquor licensing regulations they impose here in Victoria.
Mm. And your favourite, what was your favourite of the subjects?
My favourite subject was Governing by the Rules, which is taught by Professor Ari Freiberg. I found that subject spoke particularly relevant to me and the work that I was doing at the time as Manager of Regulation Reform in the then Department of Primary Industries. A lot of the guest speakers at that course were particularly engaging, including Justice Kirby. It's also delivered in a very interactive way, as are all the subjects, but it is a bit of a pet topic for me, regulation design and policy. And it really reinforced for me that that's an area of public policy that I'd like to specialise in over time, and that's exactly what I'm doing, so yeah.
There's a couple of elective subjects. Can you just talk about the rationale behind giving students the freedom and flexibility to choose electives from the universities they're studying through?
Well, we recognise that there are a core set of subjects and competencies that we want our graduates to come out of the program with, but we also recognise that people want to be able to pursue their own interests to some degree, and so the electives program is a wonderful way of allowing people to introduce a course of study for themselves through a couple of subjects at their home university. They come to me with a range of topics that they're interested in pursuing, and I always approve them because they seem to be very well integrated with what we're doing, but also you can see what someone is wanting to do with their career and why those particular electives will be helpful to them.
Great. Moving on now to delivery, can you just talk us through what do students expect? Day one, they're in the classroom. Is it like back in the old days of an undergraduate degree? Tell me about the delivery.
Well, I thought that I'd answer that question with just mentioning to you the course Designing Public Policies and Programs, which are going to be running in Canberra next week. The students who are coming along to that course have already started preparing, and so they've read through a case. They've put down what learning outcomes they're hoping to get from the week, and they've also suggested project topics that they can work on in teams. So they'll be coming into Canberra and we'll be spending a week together. We'll be having some seminars. So I guess part of it is a little bit like traditional university-based stuff, but unusual in the sense that within the first 10 minutes or so of meeting, we'll have the students talking about their interests and interacting with each other on particular problems. So there's a huge amount of active learning happening, even in those traditional sort of seminar rooms. But beyond that, we have teamwork going on. They're going to be working every day on projects. We've got guest speakers coming in. We've got interviews with people who have been in the public sector and have a lot of experience there. And the groups will also be giving presentations. at the end of the week on the topics that they're working on. They'll then follow up afterwards, after that sort of week of intense face-to-face work. They'll be going away and working as teams to finish their projects, and also then there'll be a period of reflection where the individual students will come up with, will write essays reflecting on what the subject taught them about being a public sector leader.
So I guess you're taking a week out of your life to go and study intensively, but there's some pre-study and some post-study, and I guess that format is how you can jam down a master's degree in 2 years.
Yeah, and I also think that captures a lot of the philosophy of ANZSOG, which is that we're seeking to have people take stuff back to their organisation on Monday morning and integrate it directly into their work. And part of it is that if they're still thinking about the subject and having to do assignment work for it, then they are going to be immediately thinking about the relevance of the topics that they came across to the work that they're doing back at base.
So Sally, talking about that, studying, coming back and taking something straight back and applying it to your work. Can you think of an example or talk us through anything that you got from, oh, that was great, and instantly put it into place?
I can. I'll talk about governing by the rules again if I can, but one of the things that I was working on while that subject was on was actually a legislative review of one of our pieces of forestry legislation, and a better understanding of how legislation is drafted and interpreted by judges actually helped us scope the review in a slightly different way, and certainly led to recommendations that wouldn't have been made otherwise. Yeah.
So some instant return on investment,
yes,
from that. Fantastic.
Happy boss.
Fantastic.
Yes. Yeah.
So in terms of the kind of graduates that the program is trying to produce, what do people come out at the end of the 2 years? You know, what does it achieve?
Well, there's a lot of emphasis in the program on training people in the dispositions and the approaches to working with challenges that are going to mark them out as leaders. And that's stuff that is kind of hard to pick up in a textbook or working away by yourself in a traditional kind of course at other universities. This is a case where you learn a lot of that stuff through interacting with other classmates who are also in similar positions to you. You see a guest speaker come in, they talk about a difficult problem, the way that they resolved it and so on, and then you break for lunch, you're talking with your colleagues over that, and some way a lot of the interesting stuff that's come through in that seminar or in that presentation is integrated into your way of thinking about how you could approach things in the future.
So Sally, you're only 6 months out, so this might be, but how do you reckon ANZSOG's helped you become a better leader?
That's a good question. I think for me, I'd say that before ANZSOG, I didn't necessarily take a very broad view about my role within the public sector. I think now I'm better at drawing linkages between the work that I do, which has largely been in natural resource management issues, but I can now think about analogous issues in health or education that I never would have been able to do before. So I'm more strategic in that way about thinking about a principles-based approach to thinking through problems and defining those problems. And I think in general it's made me more curious in the way I think about my work. I don't think about things so much in the silo of natural resources anymore. I think about the problem and how it might relate to the world around me, and not specifically to that sort of silo of work.
Yeah. Gary, I should say, I just probably jumped the gun on you there, but I mean, from an agency head point of view, a department head, I mean, that's pure gold what you're saying there, because it means you've got people in individual branches and divisions of your organisation who are thinking in a corporate way, so they're anticipating things that might have an implication for another branch or another part of your organisation. And the more people in your organisation you've got who are thinking collectively about the whole organisation, the better the organisation is going to perform. You know, so that really is important, I think, and it's people who think like that who become the leaders of the organisation down the track. So you're on the right path there, Sally.
In terms of application and criteria, what are you, as someone who's trying to pull a cohort of 100 plus future leaders together, what kind of things are you looking for in that group?
Well, we rely a lot on the agencies that people come from to to do the nomination and to make sure that people have the dispositions of leaders, that they've shown a commitment to the public sector, that they want to make careers in that. And because there is that early screening that goes on within the member governments and then the screening that we do here at ANZSOG, you can be sure that when you join the program, you are going to have around you a group of fellow students who are going to have the same dispositions as you, the same ambitions as you, the same curiosity that you have. And so that again reinforces this very, very fruitful and exciting learning space. And I think that you can just get so much more out of the subjects because of having such a strong group of people around you.
Look, I've got to say, I don't know what they do to pull the 120, 140 people together, but there's something that happens when you get all of those people who've gone through that kind of selection process, and they really do pull the best of the best together, and I think something really amazing happens because you get that everyone feeds off each other, and that just continues to I think to push people to be even more of their best. What's the process? What's the next step process around that?
Well, they should talk with people in their sponsoring agency, and that can actually be found on the website under the resource tab. They can find out where they should be going to take it to the next step.
Fantastic. I just wanted to quickly talk about the ANZSOG alumni. So one of the other things is that yes, you come out of this with a recognition from ANZSOG, which is Australia's premier institution for public policy and government. You also get the masters from the university that ANZSOG's partnered with, so you get that qualification as well. But you also get the lifelong membership to the ANZSOG alumni. And I've got to say, from my perspective, now I've got to put my hand up. I was president of the ANZSOG alumni in Victoria for 3 years, so might be a little bit biased there. But I've got to say, the ANZSOG Alumni Network is one of the most powerful things, and 7 years on since when I started the degree, that alumni network has been invaluable to me. So yes, I got all the academic all the academic rigor and learning from that, but it's around the contacts and the networks, and that continues to go. And when I travel interstate, I still catch up with members of the alumni. If I'm working on a public policy problem or challenges, I've got a Rolodex of a number of people I can tap into and say, hey, who do I go to speak about this? Have you guys come across this problem? How do we kind of solve this together? And that's the thing I think that is absolutely priceless in terms of making me a more effective leader and helping me get my job done.
Could I say there, Darren, to the motivation of ANZSOG in doing that is not to hit you once a year for a cheque or something like that, or some money, unlike some of the universities that I'm an alumnus of, but rather it's a further service that ANZSOG's providing to its students, really. It's providing a basis for lifelong learning, really, maintaining professional relationships and getting the value out of that. So it's consciously part of the ANZSOG offering that this alumni program exists, like with the mentoring program. It's part of a package, and again, it's something that I would say is rather special about the ANZSOG offering.
Sally, alumni, what's been your experience with the Alumni Network so far, and can you provide any insight about the benefit of the Alumni Network?
Yeah, so obviously it's only been 6 months since I graduated, but I guess I can say I still feel very connected to ANZSOG, to both the organisation and the cohort of colleagues that I had the pleasure of working with. As I said before, we've offered sort of contact points into jurisdictions, career advice to people, and that support through significant change. Obviously also have access to ongoing access to the case study program through ANZSOG as well, and that kind of reminds me to keep learning and that it doesn't stop. It really is a lifelong process. I think the other thing that surprised me a little as well is that you have access to the cohorts that have come before you as well. So once you know someone is an ANZSOG alumni, you know, you kind of have this look in your eye, that kind of knowing look of, you know, bravo, you made it too.
The secret handshake as well.
Yeah. One of those. Yeah, and very personally, you get to do things like this. I'm not someone who would ever volunteer for any public speaking of any sort. This is the second time I've done something like this for ANZSOG, and you know, it it's given me the opportunity to continue to sort of stretch my own personal boundaries, and that's a really good thing too.
Yep. I've got to say that unlike other academic institutions where they've got a big, it's a big giant check that everyone's got to sign each year. The ANZSOG alumni, supported by ANZSOG, the member events are put on a volunteer basis by the members, but we get to tap into. They are the Harvard University superstars, the Mark Moores, the Dutch Leonards, who are coming over anyway, and the alumni get to that. We get other great speakers from Australia and New Zealand, Christine Nixon, Peter Shergold. We get access to the alumni, the academics, so that continues that lifelong learning, and I think that's another fantastic opportunity.
Can I just say also that as someone who's presiding over the development and continual improvement of the EMPA degree, it's great to have the Alumni Network, because we can go to people who have been through the degree and are now in more senior positions and check with them when we're wanting to make changes or improvements, what do they think? So we get a lot of suggestions from the Alumni Network. So there's a really fantastic symbiotic relationship there that is really second to none.
Fantastic. Just a reminder, we're about to go to Q&A, so if you've got any questions, please feel free to start firing those questions through. I've lost the link to the questions here, so if someone can just bring them up again for me would be great. Before I throw open to questions, final comments. I think just in terms of things you'd like to reinforce to those people who are watching, I'd like to know a bit more about what they need to do next, why if they're teetering on the edge about this once in a lifetime opportunity, whether or not they should take it up. Gary, what might you have to say to those people?
I suppose looking back on my own career, I had those decision points as well in doing advanced study, and I've never regretted it. I mean, I think you get a fantastic payoff. It doesn't all happen in the following year or in the first 6 months, but you can see that it already is happening, and it accumulates over time. So I think for people who are wondering, whether I should do it or not, you'll be thinking about the short-term imperatives, that other project that you could have worked on, etc., etc. My advice would be, do it. You'll never regret it. You'll find time to do those other things, and indeed, if you do it, you'll get better things to do in time.
Fantastic. Yep. Sally?
Look, I'd agree. I couldn't agree more, in fact. I could say a bunch of things about how my cohort's gone on to be promoted, and they have. They've perhaps gone on to move sideways to jobs they've always wanted, and they have. And some people have sort of had epiphanies, a bit like myself, about where they'd like to specialise. So they've done particular subjects or tackled particular case studies or issues within the courses that's really sort of tipped their career, even in the short term, in a particular direction. I think the thing I'm a bit of a nerd, so I've always studied hard, but I think the thing for me is the translation of my personal skills and knowledge that I've learned through ANZSOG to my department, basically, and that's reflected in individual pieces of work and projects I've worked on. And it's also in terms of being more efficient and organised and all those sort of slightly intangible things you learn through balancing work, life, and I have a young family as well. So some of those less obvious things that don't come directly from reading a textbook have flowed through to my work and the way I work and the way I think about work.
Michael, any reinforcing points you'd like to make? Yeah,
just that people who are watching the webinar have probably already decided that they want to do some sort of postgraduate work, and so the question is, why do it with ANZSOG rather than doing it within a traditional university setting? And I think a lot of the points we've made today reinforce a number of points that I want to make now, and that is that you are going to be taking subjects that have been designed very much in consultation with the member governments. We're really seriously committed to adding value to you in ways that you can take tools and concepts and techniques that we've introduced to you in the classroom straight back into the workplace on the Monday morning after you've been at one of our intensives, and of course being part of the alumni and doing things in an interjurisdictional way here in Australia and in New Zealand. These are all things that really are going to be incredibly supportive for you as you think about going ahead as a public sector leader, and I really don't think that you could get anything as near as good as that anywhere else.
That's a pretty good reinforcement. So